side of FPX and RNG respectfully. But we'll see if anything at all changes coming into this
bands,
third
Penguins, same
game.
bands.
But this time round, I feel like if you're RNG, you gotta pick the Lee Sin. Put that into Xiaohu. There it is. Thank you. DoinB will not get that a third time in a row.
Now I wonder if FPX are going to be the ones who take the Gwen, right? Are you going to be like, hey, you know, you've been getting this all game. We have not been able to deal with the top, and you go for that yourself? But instead, no, instantly going to go for the Renekton. And this is a pick that you specifically highlighted in the last game. Is like, hey, this is a champion that FPX are very proficient on as well. We know Nuggery plays this, and everyone in the world knows that this is, you know, a champion that DoinB has played for many, many seasons. Once again, bringing out the Diana, a champion that had massive impact. I think in both games, it's fair to say, we saw a lot of really good Moonfalls coming out. And now for RNG, it's so hard to predict where they will pivot. Really would not have guessed this one coming out. You already have an 80 soul laner in your Lee Sin. You're instantly going to go towards the Olaf, but I think this makes a bit more sense now that we have the Karma coming in. And for the reason is that we know Cryan is not someone who specializes on these bruiser champions and these assassins coming into the meta. I think it is very fair and very likely to say it's going to be Cryan bringing up this Karma. They're going to try to neutralize the mid lane matchup. They don't want any kind of mid diff to come into the equation, and they're going to set way up on a champion that, you know, might not exactly be meta, but a champion he is extremely comfortable on, does have a lot of early skirmishing power compared to the Diana, and see if they can get an early lead and snowball the game out early on.
Yeah, and I'm really happy to see this adaptation coming in from RNG. Yes, the Xin Zhao is banned. You can't pick that one up, unfortunately, for yourself. But the Olaf does very, very similar things. Good early game, good, you know, kind of gank potential to be able to combo in with something like the Karma in the mid lane. And the Karma, as we've seen from Cryan in the Rogue Warriors series, is something that Cryan feels very, very comfortable on. And it also, when you're going up against the likes of a Renekton and a Diana, can do a lot to mitigate that burst in those like early to mid-game skirmishes.
It also makes me wonder where DoinB will go with the mid matchup. Like, you can take the Renekton, the Karma will try to, you know, whittle you down, and you'll get to a point where you can pretty much ignore it, right? Slice and dice in, Q the wave, you're going to pick up a Gore Drinker and an Iron Spike Whip and just be able to deal with it. Because there aren't too many champions that can really, right? Like Karma's going to do what Karma does in pretty much any matchup, right? You're not going to come in with another thing that's going to be able to push her in when she does have those mantra Qs and is able to deal with you that way. So I wouldn't, what I'm saying is I think it's very likely that they do go with Renekton mid. I actually expected them to keep the flex available and just go for a support pick right now. We do still have that Nautilus open, and, you know, Nautilus, Kai'Sa has been one of the go-tos that we've seen in the bot lane so frequently. Right now, hovering the Rel, Crisp has been a pretty standout Rel when it came to Spring Split. He was actually one of the people who first took it up and was performing exceptionally well. So still going to keep it in the vein of an engaged champion support, keeping that Renekton flex possible, seeing what is going to be brought up in the top side, though we know it's 99.9% Lee Sin, because Karma's most likely not going to be a support.
I would like to see maybe RNG go for a Braum perhaps in the support role. Just give that extra little bit of kiting, get yourself, you know, everyone on the side of FPX that wants to dive in on top of you, wants to be on top of your face. Braum, fantastic at disengaging from that. Might also see the Gragas, which is something Ming can play. Good disengaged champion as well. But I think right now with the composition you've built, I feel like you would have a strong kind of setup if you can get disengaged. They're going to go for the halfway house for both. Get a little bit of disengaged with the Alistar as well as some solid engage and a tank for the front line.
Yeah, I think that's the pick that makes the most sense, is why I think Braum definitely is something that logically makes sense. But the thing I really like about Alistar as well, engage coming in, is that you can also disrupt Diana, right? Because as Braum, if Diana jumps in, it's very hard to prevent that from happening. You can tag her with your passive after she jumps in, but now we can see Ming actively trying to keep away these divers, and instead we're going to see FPX, they will put Renekton up into the top lane, and DoinB's going to bring out the famous Kled pick. I mean, we see it so frequently now at this point, it doesn't even feel like it really needs to be mentioned, but stylistically, FPX going back to who FPX is, it feels like they've kept this pretty similar all series long in terms of like the identity of their composition and what it does. Very, very good in early skirmishes, very brawly, a lot of engage coming out. For RNG now is where we're going to see the pivot. You do have protection for your AD carry later on, but also are able to facilitate in that mid-jungle 2v2 early on. So last time we saw RNG pull out a similar comp to this was against Rogue Warriors, and they kept going for those 4-man dives bot. So I wouldn't be surprised to see RNG pivot their style from playing through top so heavily and maybe putting more emphasis on their bottom lane.
And this, going back to your Kled point as well, 20 games on the champion, has got 17 wins and 3 losses, and those losses are pretty well spread out. I believe he lost one against Ultra Prime in their series recently, and the one before that, I believe, was 2018 Summer Playoffs. So it's been a while since we've seen him consistently lose on this champion, and it is something that he has, as you say, been known for the dark technologies that he's able to bring out for his team. And Kled does a lot of, pretty much facilitates almost everything the side of FPX want to do. It puts a massive speed boost onto a hell of a lot of people and pushes them right on top of the carries they want to be jumping onto.
Yeah, still, we're not really gonna be looking at that too much early on, because he is gonna be getting pressured by that Karma in the mid lane. It is much more of a, I'll say mid game, but kind of post 6 type of composition for FPX, which we've been saying that every game, but it's really been what FPX have been drafting towards. So I want to see Doinb have impact and especially counteract whatever plays RNG you're going to try to make early on, because right, they have the Karma, they have the push in mid lane, they're bringing out the Olaf, so you expect some type of aggression, maybe invading into the enemy jungle, trying to contest some buffs. You would typically think of Olaf and think of early dragons coming out, which is a bit puzzling for me, because RNG have been a team that, not even just early dragons, RNG haven't really cared about dragons at all this split.
And they really, really haven't. They've been looking for that early aggression so far in this series and looking to try and make something work for Xiaohu in the top side. Like we said, the bot lanes have been pretty damn muted so far this series, and maybe for RNG, they want to try and change that up. We saw a couple of dives in the first game from FBX down towards that bot side, but again, like you said, it's all been about Doinb and it's all been about Xiaohu. This is a battle of the 2 super carries in either of these teams, and with Xiaohu now on the Lee Sin, I'm curious to see how well he's able to utilize it, because we've just seen 2 masterclasses from Doinb on this champion.
Yeah, we have seen Xiaohu play it 3 times. He only won once so far, but I feel like all 3 games, Xiaohu individually had a good performance on the champion. Just RNG as a team weren't able to close out. I also just love the fact that, the story is Xiaohu versus Doinb once again, even after Xiaohu is changed up to top lane. It's once again like mid laner versus mid laner, in theory, a matchup we've seen this matchup hundreds of times before, in previous years of LPL, and still going true even when these guys are in different lanes. So I want to see if it does change up this time around. RNG, incredible power around mid jungle. We did see in RNG's first 2 series, they paid a lot more attention to the mid lane. We know with Karma Olaf, you can't even just bring Olaf towards the mid lane, maybe look for a gank. I don't know if you have too much kill threat onto the Kled, unless Doinb really overextends, but show in mid, maybe try to force a summoner, turn that mid pressure into the invading an enemy blue buff, or so on and so forth, and try and force the skirmishes there.
Yeah, I think for Wei specifically, like, he does feel a little... I love that image. Nice Photoshop there, so you can see the Kaiser with LWX's face, but I do want to see Wei open up a little bit more. It feels like he's been a little bit... Apart from the first game, and specifically more, I'm talking about the second game, where he felt a little bit shy, a little bit not quite sure where he wanted to go with it, and, from we saw from the 2 series so far, the Diana has been the preferred pick, and this is something that maybe is a meta shift now for the LPL, where we're starting to see less and less Rumbles as a first priority, and the Diana kind of creeping itself back up into the ascendancy.
And it's one of those things where Wei did have a good impact in the early game. Even when we think of times of like him counter ganking bot when Ming was a bit overextended, when they were trying to like 2-man force under FPX's turret, and then they're able to turn that into first turret for FPX. For RNG, it just come around the mid game where we've seen, I don't even want to say Wei, just we've seen Rumble really struggle with a lot of these champions that do have an easy time closing distance, getting in his face, and able to make a lot of work done. As, still waiting to get in the series, getting a lot of fan sides that sadly neither of us can read. I doubt hysterics can read them either, but maybe he would be able to make out a character or two if he was here.
He would say a character or two and he'd come up with an elaborate story of what it means. But just getting a update from our producer, there was a skin selection problem. They are currently remaking the champ select, but all the champions and bans will remain the exact same, so we just have to wait for that to happen. We do apologize, of course, to everybody and anybody who's watching that we are delayed, but want to make sure everything is good before we jump into the game. So we got a little bit of time, and something we haven't really had time to talk about is the effects, I suppose, that this matchup, now that it's come down to the final game, can have for both of these team seasons. You know, for the likes of FPX, this is kind of pushing themselves back up towards the top. Yes, you lost one series, that was a bit unfortunate, but you're taking down the spring champions. You're putting yourself onto 5-1 potentially, and pushing forward into the season with a lot more, you know, renewed vigor. But on the other side, for RNG, they're just looking to get their season going.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Like, for FPX, if they win here, I think it's a great, like, mental victory. It's great for, you know, like, testing the progress of your split, you know, beating a team that you did fall to in finals. But in the grand scheme of things, FPX are sitting 4-1, you know? And at the end of the day, if you make it to playoffs, it feels like that's the goal. Sure, you know, the further you make, the more buys you can get going to playoffs. So that's another factor for FPX. But if for whatever reason FPX fell here today, I don't think it means too much for them, like, going forward, other than the disappointment of falling to RNG. RNG, though, RNG are sitting at 1-2. They already lost to OMG and LNG. They did have a shaky series against Rogue Warriors. For RNG, who Xiaohu admittedly said, hey, right now we're just focusing on getting to playoffs, it feels like this is a lot more of a must-win coming out from them. So we aren't getting, you know, to week 7 or 8, and then RNG are suddenly in a race with other teams to make playoffs.
I think that's the big thing as well, is that the momentum that RNG will need from this win or loss, you know, the lack of momentum that can come from it. You know, they look at the next few series they have to play. They play top eSports, Suning, they play LGD, IG, so a lot of games that are 100% winnable for them, but a win off of this best of 3 would definitely feel a hell of a lot better going into specifically the top esports series as they look towards the rest of the split. And because RNG did miss the first week and a half of games because of quarantine, they played 2 series every single week right up until the end of the regular season. So they've got a very, very busy schedule with very little time in between series to actually, you know, prepare or even relax.
I mean, and then you factor in travel, right? That there really is just no time. So it's all going to come down to, you know, if they can get on a good streak or not, and things like that. We've heard, you know, from people who've been in LPL, kind of the toll that the schedule, the travel, all of that can have, but you just got to, you know, deal with it, put up or shut up. That's all there is. You follow the league, and hopefully you get those wins. But RNG, definitely a team that is capable. As, ooh, Ocean, the screen is panning in. That means we are going to be onto the Rift.
We are here for our 3rd and final game. Gonna let the gyros go a bit crazy for a while because you know that crowd is so excited.
They're not the only ones who are excited. I'm sure fans are excited. We're excited. We got a penta. We got crazy games. We have team fights that are all over the place. Honestly, every single game, every team fight has been ridiculously hard to follow, but entertaining to watch. Kind of bringing out the child joy in all of us, you know, we experienced when we were young at every little thing. So, you know, I feel like today was just a gift from FPX and RNG. And there's no other way to think about it, as they were threatening an invade. Not going to go for that.
Nope, didn't even drop down any wards. They did have a sweeper in the back pocket of Crisp, so he sweeps away the ward there with LWX, as we do see Wei starting on this top side with the Olaf. Pretty bog standard start here for both of these junglers. You don't really need a massive leash for either of them, as we start to see how this Kled Karma matchup does end up going. And I am going to be keeping a very, very close eye on Xiaohu versus Nuguri in this particular matchup, because we saw just how big of a gap Doonby put between himself and Cryan in this exact same matchup. Now we'll see if Xiaohu can do something similar.
I mean, now Nuguri having a matchup he's clearly familiar with, playing a champion he knows, and playing against a champion like Lee Sin, where Renekton is able to get pressure, as we've seen. Xiaohu also did leash, so Nuguri was able to start on the wave, get to that level 2 point first, as compared to bot lane, where neither bottom lane did leash, so both of them able to start here. Crisp and LWX going to be the initial ones to get pressure, so that's how we're panning out, right? FPX side lanes being the ones to get that early push, but Cryan, as we expected, able to push in Doonby in the mid lane. Wei's clear speed is going to be a bit faster. He also did get that little bit of a leash from Xiaohu, so does make a lot of sense, but RNG might be looking for a gank down bot.
Looking for something. You can see already the Olaf just roaming down. They know that there's a sweeper for Chris, but no actual ward. It's going to be LWX who gets caught up. They do get the attract repel, do get both summoners out of LWX, and that is a very successful gank for RNG.
And it's what RNG have done ever since they've started going Karma plus early pressure jungle is, hey, we're doing this, we're gonna play more towards the bottom half of the map. We're gonna leave Xiaohu on an island. It could even be seen from how the rest of the series is gone is like, hey, you know, FPX haven't put that much stock into top lane. FPX also might be the ones to change it up because you can see Nuguri looks like he's getting a bit of heavy trading down in the top lane. He's pushing waves inconsistently. But I guess without Doonby really able to move from mid, would be pretty hard as FPX to force any kind of dive on top lane.
Loving the adaptation as well we're seeing from these two squads. They're just both picking up the early sweepers. Xiaohu, you have to be so careful here, buddy. That is a very low health bar, and with the rage stacked up here for Nuguri, he could get the extra auto attack onto his W. He could get the extra healing as well, so you can't really trade as effectively. You need to be so respectful, and he is going to do just that. Going to back himself up, TP back to the lane before he loses any more minions, and get himself back into some kind of a healthy spot.
You're going to assume if Xiaohu was that confident to walk up once our observers did come back to top lane, it's probably signaling that Nuguri had just used his cooldown, so Xiaohu feeling confident to walk up. FPX also knowing that Way's on the top half of the map. We see pings coming out from both teams. They know where the starts of the opposing junglers came out. They know camps are starting to respawn around this time, so know where they should play around accordingly.
They should. We do now have the Olaf and the Diana starting their second rotations as the TP did come in. Both TPs, and ooh, the Resonating Strike does not land. That's actually a lot of your damage taken away. You can see just how close it was. I believe if he lands that Q, Xiaohu probably gets at minimum the flash out of Nuguri, if not outright killing him, but they might still want to do just that as Wei has found himself up here, but there was a ward on top of that brush, so they know that he is here, they know that Ming is here, but that might not dissuade them either way. They may still look to try and go for this. Crisp is around, and Diana's not too far away either.
No, so that's why Xiaohu was heavy trading, trying to get the health bar chunked. Nuguri gonna flash very nicely.
Yeah, good little flash there from Nuguri. Keeps himself safe, gets away from Ming on the headbutt pulverize combination that was comboed with his flash, but I think you're still pretty okay with that if you're on the side of RNG. Support flash for a top laner flash definitely feels a lot better on the side of RNG, but
oh
they
god,
want to go for Chris. They do want to go for Chris, but now he's been caught up. He greeted for the ward. Just try to get the Ferromancy down. As we can see the Renekton going in. Chris flashes away. There'll be a flash from Xiaohu as Chris just about falls down. First blood to Wei, and no one on RNG falls. The Dominus was just hit, but while this is all happening, we can see the mid lane Doonby. He says he's not to be outdone, and he will pick up a return kill.
Doonby still being a total stud in this series, but I can't believe that Nuguri wasn't able to pick up any kills. Nuguri went back to the wave, so Nuguri was able to hit level 6, and okay, just Wei running through mid, no action here. But point is, Nuguri had ultimate, no ultimate on Xiaohu. Still, even with the Dominus, not able to get anything.
No.
Gala!
Oh no!
Gala?
Oh no! That was an unfortunate timing of backs, and when we'll see in the replay of exactly what happened here for Cryan, is he just walked straight into Doonby, and Doonby's just always going to have this fight.
I mean, that's the thing, right, is Doonby was able to tell, hey, he's probably going to want to start roaming up towards the top side and try to alleviate whatever's happening up there. He actually has an ultimate that, you know, kind of enables that skirmishing, enables the engage to come out, so very easy for him to look for that all in onto Cryan and not even having to expend his flash for it either. So another massive win, because now Cryan gonna have to be a lot more respectful with how much pressure he puts in lane.
Well, Xiaohu been given just as good as he got, or he gave, as Nuguri does trade pretty effectively into him. This is the other side of the matchup, but this does feel like, again, Nuguri's feeling a little bit more confident in this particular matchup, but no resonating strike there for Xiaohu means he's not able to put down the damage, and it does feel a little bit like this matchup is going more and more in favor of the Renekton. It's not what we've been used to so far this particular series, as Doonby is just kind of owning this matchup.
I feel like a big thing is, right, that we saw Nuguri able to get the Spike Whip to where for Xiaohu, he was doing those trades with just a Doran Shield and a Doran's Blade. I think he was aggressively looking for those trades because he knew Dominus was still on cooldown to where he did have his Dragon's Rage up or if something broke out, but Yeah, still not going to mean that much. Nuguri having more stats in that moment, able to win out. Nuguri going to utilize that pressure, get a ton of vision down towards the top half of the map. With the fact that Crisp is going for the reset, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to use this pressure into some kind of play top side. Doonby also being forced incredibly low with Wei waiting in the wing, so that might stop any plans that FPX could have looked for towards the top half of the map. And I love that Tien also gonna be behind Wei. Wei might not even check. He actually might just make his way towards Herald or top first.
Well, Wei walking in now to his own jungle, and yep, doesn't feel like there's anything untoward. Tien is on his Gromp, but while this has all been happening, the Dominus and the Dragon's Rage kick have both been traded. Here's the flash forward though, and Tien was hiding all along. Now Xiaohu in the wrong place, the wrong time. FPX winning in all lanes right now,
Gala?
and really pushing forward. Gala, oh man, he is not having a fun time in this bot side.
And FPX are just completely smacking them this time around. First time in the series that they've been able to get an early lead. I just love what happened topside. I'm sure Wei and Xiao are so confused, like, where did this guy come from? They're invading their enemy blue when his mid laner had no pressure, but Nuguri did in that situation, able to turn around and bamboozle them a little bit. They are going to turn onto the Rift Herald in this moment. They have such a massive tempo lead. RNG aren't even going to be able to contest. It's going to start making their way down to the spot side. And that's the thing, right? They are winning on the side of the map they're dedicating resources into, which is top. And then they're also winning where they're putting nothing into. We saw Doonby find the solo kill in mid. Sure, he's getting pushed in, but that's just a byproduct of the matchup. He's winning in CS despite that fact. And then in bottom lane, I mean, Gala the first time did that to himself. This time around, I wonder if Chris was going to crash down into stun. Does get it, and just really nice killer instinct coming out from LWX, cutting off his retreat path. Nowhere for him to go. And yeah, I mean, as RNG, now you're losing absolutely everywhere on the map.
This is where it starts to get to really scary, terrifying territory, because your Renekton is nearly 2,000 gold ahead of Xiaohu. Xiaohu, your carry. Yeah, it's just top plates, top CS, top kills. Like, Nuguri has been playing, he's been beaten down, beaten up, everything kind of going wrong for him. And speaking of going wrong for him, Cryan might be in a little bit of trouble. There is going to be a flash away from him as Doonby flashes forward, and he will get the unmount. They will also get the attract repel. Doonby will fall, but it's Ming who picks up the kill. Not ideal. They have the Magnet Storm, though, to come down on top of everybody. The ultimate there from Wei keeps him just about a little bit alive, but while this has all been happening, Nuri again pushing in Xiaohu, making sure that this Lee Sin can never get to the point, because now he's got a Gore Drinker versus Armor Boots. That's it. Armor Boots and a couple of swords.
Yup, plated steel caps not able to do the job today, Penguin, but I just love at this point that Doonby doesn't even look like he has the respect for Cry. Just like, I don't even care if I go down. I'm going to kill you every single time. I'm going to show that I'm the better mid laner in this match. And I mean, now we're getting to the point, right, when we talk about win conditions and macro and these kinds of things. I mean, when FPX win everywhere in the map, right, they can kind of do as they please. They take Dragon, they're able to push in top. Nuguri really has no fear of any ganks coming out, has both Slice and Dice Flash, has Dominus available, he's able to get away. They were able to get Rift Herald. They can get vision onto either side of the jungle, especially now that Doonby is also ahead in his matchup. He's picked up his Gore Drinker. FPX have a plethora of options with how they can deal with the map. I think still you want to be able to break down this top lane turret relatively soon with how low it is, right? Sitting on only 2 plates currently.
And we gotta address the elephant in the room that has been crying, and he is just not having a day today. He's not a bad mid laner by any stretch of the margin, but he's looking amateurish in this particular matchup against Doonby, and we can even see Xiaohu just trying to kind of losing his momentum that he gained in the first 2 games against FPX. But Doonby is a little bit far forward, has got himself the buckshot to get himself away, but Rift Herald does get the charge off, and now Crisp should have the crash down to keep him safe. They do get everybody out, get the plates away, and no one goes down. But now Tien, he's not resting, he's not stopping. The TP came in here. There's still no Gore Drinker here for Xiaohu. Resonating Strike has not been hit. There's the flash forward. They're going to use the Dragon Strike to try and kill him off. And he's going to go down. Tien as easy as you like. Doesn't need a wave. Doesn't matter if you try and get away with your flash. Shout who you're dead. And now speaking of more people who might be dead, we are going to see Doomby going to use the charge defensively because he realized he stepped a little bit too far forward onto Cryan.
Yeah, numerous members here for the side of RNG, so not able to go forward. And I just want to hit back on Cryan real quick, right? Because we saw last year Cryan having some standout moments. Great Rumble player, was pretty good on some control mages too, like the Cassiopeia, the Azir, where things that stood out. Came into this year, I think had like a decent year, right? Wasn't like a top 4 mid laner, but was definitely not a bottom feeder either. At MSI, he had a few standout games. I think he had a really good Sylas performance, if I recall off the top of my mind, where he just consistently invaded the enemy jungle off some solo kills, but definitely feels like the meta's gotten away from him a little bit. He's still specifically a member who's trying to find champions that are comfortable for him, that can work well in combo with this more like aggressive skirmishing style that we're seeing of a lot of champions coming in right now.
Oh, Doomby just playing with his food right now. Has a ward, knows exactly where Wei is. Wei should see Tien though, and should know that the jig is up. But Ming is here, just making sure that everything they do is set up. And now Wei, now he knows he has been caught up on the ward. We'll want to take that as his little prize before he goes back. But 800 gold from turret plates for Nuguri in this top side.
6k gold lead, Penguin. 6k at 14 minutes.
It's rough. It is rough, and Dragon's also in favor of FPX, and it doesn't really get that much easier. The Olaf kind of becomes a frontliner. He doesn't really do that much in terms of engage. He's just there to facilitate the rest of the carries. The Lee Sin will be fine. Yes, the Tristana, yes, but you gotta get there. There's not really a big mid-game spike, whereas I look on the side of FPX, there's a lot of mid-game here for FPX. Renekton and Diana, even the Kled, will just be so strong at that 1 to 2 item mark that you can't really fight at anything, and if you don't fight, you're probably just gonna die a death of 1,000 cuts.
I feel like the big thing that I love about FPX's comp in this situation is the fact that it is so good at forcing when you have this kind of lead. You can just continuously force dives like we just saw on top side. You can invade the enemy jungle pretty much without care if you do dedicate enough numbers there. Wei's going to go into Nuguri, but I think Nuguri's probably fine.
Nope, he's dead because Cryan was off to the side, but there's the charge, just a little bit too little too late. Crisp is around, they do get the Dragon's Kick, and the rage of Xiaohu is enough. So, nice little pick, nice little shutdown here for the side of RNG, and they get themselves a little bit of gold. Still about 5,500 in favor of FPX, but it's little victories, Lyric. Still tiny things you gotta be grateful for, especially when you're behind.
Oh, I mean, that's, just 100% true, right? When you're this far behind, any small win is something you're willing to take. Like you highlighted, Cryan hovering over the wall wasn't a true 1v1, able to facilitate Wei to win out in that. Are also going to be able to pick up the bot side turret with the fact that LWX and Chris roamed up to allow for Tien to be able to take that Rift Herald. So, gold lead, only about 5k now. We're slowly getting there with 6k about 2 minutes ago.
And we'll go back up to about 5.5 in about 3, 2, 1. There it goes. So we're going back to that particular one. But yeah, it is still very much FPX favored. We are still waiting to see if RNG can crawl it back. They have got tools at their disposal to do so, but they are definitely feeling the hurt. They will not be able to contest for any of these dragons for a very long time, as we do see the minimap getting bigger.
No vision on the side of RNG.
No vision. Just absolutely none. I was wondering there for a second of why we were looking at the minimap, and it seems that your brain is bigger than mine.
I mean, right, there's really nowhere RNG can get vision from. Like, RNG can try to funnel 3 members into, like, a side lane. Like, maybe put 3 members bot or 3 members top and then force your way into river from there, get some vision down. But FPX can very easily even then just turn off mid, try to retake vision, and they feel fine fighting you, right? Sure, we saw Nuguri go down in top side, but if FPX dedicate the right amount of members into any play, then RNG have to concede just about everything at this point. As RNG, you're doing what you just said. You're playing for those small gains. You're putting down defensive wards in your jungle, as we're seeing now. Control wards coming out like in the bottom side in front of Raptors, so on and so forth. Look for when people are overextending to catch them out. And then when you do have windows, look for those picks on side lane like we've seen on Nuguri attempted a few times now.
This is where it becomes even more difficult because Wei is already down in 2 levels, 40 CS behind, and with the pressure that the side of FPX now have with all the tier 1 turrets being taken down, they can roam in as a 3-man, know that they're stronger, know that they have the advantage in any kind of skirmish, even if it is an odd-numbered skirmish against them. They should be able to keep taking away these camps, keep taking away resources. But DoinB getting engaged on here by Xiaohu, Wei in tow. But don't believe anything should come of this. Ming is around and they're just kind of clearing the vision, gaining some kind of control into their own jungle before they can really look for a play. And Kraken Slayer's built for the AD carries. It's going to be a slow game here for the Tristana. Really not going to have any kind of fun in these team fights until very, very late in the game when she's able to get out and still put out long-range DPS with the levels and the range advantage she's able to get.
And let's also remember that FPX really don't even need to care about any magic resist, right? You can just funnel DoinB and Nuguri into armor, and you're pretty much going to negate all of the damage that RNG has. So even having a decently easy time itemizing, an engage comes through, and engage into a disengage.
TP right here into the charge, and that's going to be the go sign here for FPX, and TP going to be answered by Xiaohu. This is all over a Red Buff, and as I say that, we can see Xiaohu looking for a kick, doesn't quite find it, gets taken down almost immediately. They go in with the killer instinct, and it's a fight that's going to be, see FPX picking up 3, looking for more, pushing onto this back end. Diana picking up the final 2. It's an ace for 1. All they lose is support. And there's not a hope and a prayer for RNG right now. FPX seem to have found another gear, and they are just taking it to RNG.
I mean, Penguin, this one was just numbers diff, right? They have more stats coming out with their items. They can take any fight that they please. Pretty much everyone sitting about a full item up over their counterpart. They're so far ahead, they can even just dive that turret, and then Xiaohu finds his way onto Tien, tries to go for the kick, but really nice stopwatch coming out from him. On the opposite side, though, you have all of the bruisers of FPX putting out a ton of AoE damage onto the other core members of RNG. Crying instantly going down. You see Ming quickly following up. Now they have an easy time just diving onto both Wei and Gala, and it's just massive, Penguin. But at the same time, right, when we're looking at RNG's options, when you're 6k gold down in 14 minutes, woo! That is,
It probably is going to end up equaling 9k down at 20 minutes, so doesn't really change the hole you're in. It's still the same hole, it's just a deeper hole. As FPX just smacking RNG with their wallets right now, as DoinB is just untouchable in my opinion on this Kled. Really just great to see him kind of take this, pick out again and again and show us that it doesn't matter if it's meta, it doesn't matter if, it's considered a pocket pick, it still works, and it does a lot of what in terms of what the meta champions are doing. You look at Lee Sin's, the Xin Zhao's, the Renekton's, they all build Sterix, they all build Gore Drinker, and 21 minutes on the clock, no wards whatsoever, TP going to be committed. This is a Baron for the side of FPX, there's nothing RNG can do.
And it's a win-win either way, right? They're gonna posture for if RNG come for the turn. We can see Chris do that now. Heck, DoinB already fighting, or they get a free Baron if RNG don't commit to a fight.
Oh, we might see a fight being committed to. The Baron is putting down a lot of poke, but not enough to stop everyone from FPX just fully committing and turning that cow into mincemeat. Ming is the first casualty of war, as they're going to see more and more people falling. FPX are just on a rampage right now. Gala is on 0 HP, and they're hunting. They're sniffing out for him. They want to know where he is. They want to get that clean ace. They won't get it this time around, but FPX 10,000, 12,000 gold ahead. They're going to turn straight back for this Baron. And this is just getting difficult.
They're doing everything on the map, Penguin. They're getting mid-turret, they're doing Baron, they're doing Dragon. I mean, they're doing as they please. FPX, I mean, great job to find those early advantages, now pushing them to their max. One small thing that I really love about Kled, I love that the Sterix Gauge Shield actually procs after you dismount, so DoinB's build is like optimal for just trying to remount as quickly as possible. We've seen him also pick up the Guardian Angel before and like kind of combo in with that, so really fun coming out. I think it's not too surprising that FPX felt the confidence to turn onto that Baron to try to bait the fight. They get the turn. If they didn't get the turn, they get the Baron for free. It's pretty much a win-win situation for them. Now we're going to see RNG do this, where it's like, hey, you have a few members hovering around towards the side lane. Maybe if you're fortunate, Nuguri overextends. You find that pick off, or even if he doesn't overextend, you just commit more members to that pickoff, but you're just consciously deciding to lose on the opposite side of the map.
And the big thing for RNG is they just don't have time. They need time to build up this Tristana. They need time to get Xiaohu back into this game. He's 0-4-1, has been invisible this entire game 3, which is such an incredibly weird thing to think about, considering how good and how incredibly potent he was in game 1 and game 2 with the Gwen, getting those solo kills, picking up from 0 solo kills in the split to 4, I believe, overall in those 2 games. So really very disappointing to see from him, and it's just been FPX just suffocating them. Nothing that the side of RNG can do about it. There's just no way back into it. They're almost 15,000 gold behind, and we're not even at 25 minutes.
I mean, to be fair to Xiaohu, right, FPX actually did follow through with their interview. They actually did dedicate resources to top this game, both Crisp and Tienez. Oh my god! We come and Galish is dead!
Gala has been sent to the Shadow Realm, as well as the rest of RNG. There's just no damage now. You went with the Karma. You were looking for the scaling. Xiaohu will go out with a badge of honor of being able to say, I didn't get no kills, but there is nowhere left to hide here for RNG. You are just being beaten down by the wallet, the fat stacks of money and stats that are just coming down on top of you from the side of FPX, and they can just keep going forward. They can keep burning down this base and burning down the kingdom of RNG as they look to continue their revenge after losing the Spring Split Finals.
Yep, FPX coming in strong, and I mean, actually not going to be able to fight in the end right now, but it just feels like a matter of time, right? RNG at this point already seem like they're in the coffin. It's just when is FPX actually going to give them the burial? But we look across the board, and I mean, there's just no way, no like easy way to say it for RNG. I do feel like when we look at, ooh, we actually do get the replay out. This actually pivots from my point really well, that I feel like the biggest kind of underperformer this game was Gala, right? We saw early on Gala try to go for that 1v1, instantly dies once again in a 2v2 kill coming out from that. And even now, it's really hard to like fault RNG for any mistakes at this point in the game. Still, FPX find a way on top of him. So this time around, RNG's bot lane kind of giving over advantages to FPX, to where it's like, hey, at least if your top side didn't work out early on with those 3v3s, right? RNG could have always tried to pivot around playing to their bot lane, but with the fact that both sides lost and bot lane lost by itself is, I think, what made this game so hard for RNG.
Well, the charge has come in, and Doomby is a one-man army as they all look to try and maybe end this game. There is still Nexus turrets, the final inhibitor does fall, and now FPX will give RNG their final burial as they look to try and end this game, take the series 2-1. And that being said, though, no one's really falling right now, and it's actually Diana, and it's actually a zombie movie. It's going to come back from the dead. RNG able to take down one. Doonby still not looking super healthy. Will get the remount and the stair gauge. Never mind. There it is. RNG thought they had an opportunity, but it turns out there's too many minions. Get back into the ground, you zombies. You ain't coming back onto this one. The burial has been set. The eulogy has been said. And FPX will, even if they don't win this team fight, it doesn't even matter. There's just too many super minions. They will still end this game, and they will win the series 2-1. In, I want to say, probably the highest gold lead in an LPL game this split by far.
I just love how you have to preface it at the very end, like, okay, if it doesn't happen now because they're kind of trolling, they're still gonna win at some point. But you know, I like this series. This was a fun series. This win from FPX was amazing. I just kind of wish it would have happened in a different order, to where we could have had like one of those like really hype games at the end. But FPX, they bounced back in game 3 strong. It doesn't matter if it's kind of funny thinking about it, actually. It doesn't matter if they don't get the Lee Sin and they get the Renekton. I mean, it just looked like a completely different champions in the hands of Nuguri, and especially with help from the team. Because we had constant 3v3s topside, which is kind of funny because our 3v3s weren't with our mid laners. It was top, jungle, and support all 3 of the times that we did have them. And every time it was a bit back and forth, it'd be like a kill or 2 going over on both on each side. But in the end of the day, it was FPX coming out on top, especially once we saw Nuguri able to buy that Iron Spike whip, get ahead in terms of like stats, bring more attention up towards the top side. Then it just didn't help when Duinbi solo kills Crying when he's trying to rotate towards top, and even worse when Gala tries to dive on LWX down in bot side and also dies. It's like, that is probably one of the worst sequence of events you can hope for in a professional game, and sadly just happened in the deciding match of the series.
Yeah, it did feel, as you said, just very, very unfortunate for the side of RNG. But for FPX, you could even argue to you that they should have won that first game, considering how far behind they were and how far ahead they ended up being towards that last fight. So I still think that RNG are going to be okay with the loss. You're going against FPX, who people would be definitely touting as a top 4 team coming into this split. So still doesn't make it any easier for them. And FPX, 5-1 now in the standings. They are feeling pretty damn good. And I just feel like you can't bet against Doomby. Doomby is just dragging this team so far ahead. And then when they actually can work together, when we do get Nuguri into something that can carry and do well in lane, when it can do something in the early game, he's showing his his pedigree, if you will, coming in as well.
That's the thing, right? Despite the story of the first 2 games, I don't want people to walk away from the series thinking that's the story of FPX all split long, right? Because we have seen a good systematic play coming from Doinby with Tien, a lot of mid-jungle 2v2. Crisp has been roaming exceptionally well. We've been seeing them find a role in this team, specifically with the Senatom Kench bot lane coming through. Nuguri's had some standout moments. We saw he was leading in solo kills before the series. Even despite the series, he's definitely still leading in solo kills, so this series, I think, overall was shaky from a lot of members of FPX. Game 3 was like a really nice, momentum boost after, hey, we a lot of weird moves in Game 1 and 2, but we all came together in Game 3 and it worked out well. But yeah, I think FPX this split have shown they have an identity. They've shown they can adapt to the meta well. Doinby overall, I think, is the big takeaway of this series and is the one who, just put it on his back and was amazing to see. But good that FPX were able to come out and adapt in draft when RNG were the ones who took away the Lee Sin, and they got something that was full comfort for them. They still go back towards this Kai'Sa, which is an incredibly losing champion. There's, I don't know if there's another way to say that. I'm just going to say incredibly losing, but made it work. It's something he's comfortable on, as we saw from the fan sizes in the crowd. And you always know when FPX can just run at you, they are happy.
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way to look at this from the side of FPX, is that if they get their comforts, they're going to be happy with it. And I did like the little mini meta that we saw come out of this, or the little mini meta adaptation that we saw. We saw the Rumble, which has been so heavily prioritized throughout the LPL and pretty much all leagues around the world, very much just fall down the ban order and the pick order once the Diana was kind of seen as this just seems to do really well into it and does a kind of a similar thing, but with more reliability with the ultimates. So I do want to see, I want to keep an eye on as we go through the rest of the LPL and next week and of course in the regular season, how this kind of affects the other teams and how it really affects the LPL as a whole coming into the middle part of the split. And for RNG, there's still a lot of questions, and I think Gala is doing what Gala did in spring, where he looked very much middling in the regular split, and hopefully he can have a very good playoffs if they get there. But we're going to have our MVP from Game 3, and I will not lie to you, I was talking, so I did not hear what our beautiful director Charlian said.
It's
Tien! Tien! There it is. It's going to be Tien as the MVP. Honestly, thoroughly deserved. Was able to set up his lanes and just be everywhere where Wei was to just negate any kind of pressure.
Yeah, I think Tien definitely, after the initial Rumble game, coming out with 2 strong games on Diana, like you said, creating a ton of pressure towards the top side, was always where he needed to be. This team fight especially, right, goes in, instantly hits the stopwatch once RNG all funnel on top of him, was really cool to see. So Tien definitely having some up and down moments, I think, overall this split, but I mean, the fact that FPX is 5-1, I think is confirmation that there have definitely been way more ups than there have been downs.
Absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that FPX are still a top team, and it's just about how far they can go, and this is going to be a team that people look to and figure out how they're going to be able to take them down. We look at, towards their next few series. They play, I don't believe they play for another week or so. They play against Invictus Gaming, then they play BLG, LGD, but we are going to see what they have to say for themselves. We're going to send it over to Wendy for a winner's interview.
Hello everyone, welcome to the interview, and now I'm standing with Tian from FPX after getting the win against RNG with a 2-1 scoreline. So congratulations on this win, and let's talk a bit more about the in-game contents. It feels like, especially in Game 2, the top lane is not a solo lane, but the battlefield of the countless skirmishers, and also RNG is a top-focused team, so maybe will you guys put more attention to the top lane? And while Nogri got many tower dives, how did the whole team react to that? 那首先恭喜你们今天很漂亮拿下比赛的胜利。那说到今天的比赛，我们感觉特别是第二局上路就感觉不是一个单人路，然后就完全在上路在打大乱斗的感觉。而且 RNG 也是一个特别以上路为主的一个队伍嘛，所以说你们有没有特别的去对上路然后去照顾一下，然后特别是牛宝当他们想要去在牛宝上路进行一些越塔的时候，你们队内有怎么样的一个反应呢？
第二盘就是我们其实就是线上打的挺好的嘛，然后就是对于上路来说，我们给的保护也比较多，然后就是集合去这个帮上路吧，然后呢就是感觉第二盘其实我现在没什么印象，但是我觉得结束的挺快的。
It feels like in Game 2 we have a rather very good laning phase, and also we have give enough protection to the top lane. And also, although the opponent team they try to target on the top lane a lot, but we were able to handle with it. And also, I'm not very sure about the Game 2, but I think Game 2 was a very quick game. Yeah, definitely Game 2 was a very clean victory from FPX, and it's just full with so many highlights. And I want to talk a bit more about the Doombi Pentakill thing, because I think it's a very important turning point of the whole game. So could you share more about that scene? 那说到第二局，就不得不提到的一个就是硬币哥的那波盲僧五杀嘛，感觉也是非常重要的一个转折点。然后所以想小天分享一下，就那一波究竟是发生了些什么？
首先我们中单今天真的打得很好，然后就那波团战其实打到一半，就前面是快输掉了团战，然后就已经开始在复盘团战了，然后他一个人把对面杀光了，就感觉那波哇，感觉今天不会输，就是这样感觉。
I must say for today's game, Doombi really played so well. For that team fights around the while the team fights was happening, we just feel like we cannot win it, and we have already made some feedbacks on that team fight. But Doombi by himself, he just won the team fight, and I think he just deserve my credit. He just played so good for this game. And also, I want to talk a bit more about Game 3, because with the last pick of Doombi's signature clad, you have made the draft with 5 engaging champions, and also after around 15 minutes, FPX were able to have 6,000 gold differential. So how to maximize the strength of this engaging comps and very early game comps? 那说到第三局，其实你们在最后选出了一个克烈以后，就完成了5冲阵的一个阵容，然后你们也很完美的利用了它的一个优势，就是在15分钟左右就已经有6000的一个经济差了。所以想问一下，你们是怎么样去尽可能的去利用这个阵容的优势，然后帮助自己队伍拿下比赛呢？
就因为他们对面中野是卡玛和奥拉夫嘛，然后他们前期特别的强势，然后我们前期就计划了很多要怎么规避对面强势期，然后让我们中野能发育起来，因为我们前期的阵容组合是比较弱的，然后后面就是我刷起来了之后，大家对线也都打得很好，然后所以就很顺利，前期拿到很多优势。
I think after the ban pick phase, because the opponents made jungle, they have the karma, and all of those 2 champions can be super strong in the very early game. So we have made so many plans, and we try to avoid the a very strong time point of the opponents made jungle, and then after quite a while we were able to scale up so good, and also we have a very comfortable laning phase, so with that we were able to get more leads in the early game. And I want to talk a bit more about your Diana, because your Diana got the MVP for Game 3, and you just blind pick this champion in both Game 2 and 3. We feel Diana is not that strong before level 6, so what kind of drops can this champion fit in so well? And in facing a very strong early game champion like Olaf in Game 3, how to just handle with that situation? 那我们第三局小天的皎月也是当之无愧的 MVP 嘛，然后呢，小天的皎月玩得非常好，所以我们想问一下关于皎月的问题。其实皎月呢，就是他可能是在前6局之前并不是那么强的一个英雄，但是呢，小天却在今天第2、3局都是在对面没有选择打野的情况下提前选下，所以说想问一下皎月比较契合怎么样的一个阵容呢？特别是像第3局面对很强势的前期奥拉夫的情况下，你们会怎么样去处理和应对呢？
皎月这个版本 就是一个比较强的有伤害，然后能开团的 AP 打野，然后我们中上线战士英雄都玩得很好，所以对于我来说，我能发挥的空间比较大，然后所以在我们队现在可能这个英雄的优先级会比较高，而且我觉得我对这个英雄很有自信。
I feels like Diana, this champion, she can be super strong in dealing all the damage and have a very good engaging skills. So that's why she can be a very hot pick in the current meta. And also inside the team, the top and mid lane player, they are super good at all the warrior champions. That's a reason for me to be able to pick Diana, this AP champion for the jungler. And also I'm quite confident in this champion. So that's a reason for us to just put Diana on a very top priority. And definitely Diana have a gorgeous performance today, and congratulations again for this win. 那还是再次的恭喜你们，我们也只期待小田更好的一个表现。And back to you guys, bye bye.